Yo, Mana Squad, if you like any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to hit up the affiliate link down below to TCG Player. You can help look up some of your local game stores in the process and help show the channel some love. And you know you got to look good while you play in order to play good. So make sure you hit up our link to Into the AM as well. We have the discount code down in the description below. Look, you got to listen to Kenneth the Heathen, and he always says something about dripping in space and screaming. We don't know what it means, but do what the man says. And last but not least, hit up Heavy Play. Heavy Play is going to have some of the nicest playmats and deck boxes out there. Their magnet system between their deck box and dice trays and playmat is amazing, especially if you're playing at like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You got to get up and move. There is no better way to keep all your stuff together, and you can show the channel some love in the process. Stay petty.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Command Center, where we like to put our favorite commander, maybe even yours, front and center. And you know we can't do it unless we play those three freaky letters, EDH. What does it stand for today, Hado Ken?
It stands for excising, dredge, horror. That's right. It's that spooky time of the year. Y'all know what that means. Taco Bell brought that value menu back, so we all need to run and hide. That's right. I'm just saying, we ain't got time for this, man. And I don't do this in my house, not this creepy stuff. I don't do dolls, tarot cards, or magicians. I don't allow any of that past my front door.
Honestly, the Taco Bell dollar menu, look, shout out, best fast food ever, but that's a more intense battle. If I see a doll, I'm drop kicking it out of a window. If I see Taco Bell, I'm gonna eat it and hate myself for a day. So
exactly,
which one's scarier?
Excise it. I'm gonna actually tell you something that you're not supposed to know. So as the clergy, you have to go and do you got to do a missionary to Taco Bell to learn how they excise demons. That's stage one of your training right there. Expelliarmus, I believe that's what they call it. But yeah, that's where they go, parishioners of faith, to learn to excise demons. Nomines Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Okay, Monsignor Kennedy. All right, let's get said. Why are we here today? Did we just stumble across a video screen and stop and look at ourselves, or what are we doing?
Yeah, like you said, it is spooky season, so I guess we want to get into the spooky mood. So I guess today we're going to pull the mask off on some of these commanders and these legends that are on his face very scary, but you know, like the old mystery gang, you pull the mask off and it's just old Mr. Rogers down the street who you know, gets a little bit too close to people sometimes, and
yeah,
you know, sometimes we gotta call the cops.
Yeah. Old Mr. Rogers always has his peen out.
Isn't Mr. Rogers like the most wholesome person ever? Where's this coming from?
No. Tangent time. Mr. Rogers is a whole killer in these streets. You do not walk up on Mr. Rogers like that's what he was in the Marines. Let it not be twisted. He can mess you up.
But why
won't you be my neighbor?
Why is he just flopping around? That does not add up to the story you're telling me.
He's trying to lure people into attacking him so he can mess them up.
Lure?
Why do you think?
Look, I think
he's like a deep sea fish.
I think we got it all misconstrued. You're thinking about Mr. Rogers, Rogers. I'm talking about Mr. Rogers, Rodgers. We don't talk to that guy.
The D is silent. Take that.
All right, so before we get into before we get too far into the specifics of it, we do want to talk about one thing real quick. Just we've seen some comments, everything like that. We are aware of the ban situation, of the whole commander situation. We didn't really feel like we have a ton to add to it. Honestly, just stop being assholes to each other. That's the biggest message we have. You know.
No. Let me speak on this.
Oh gosh, okay. Never mind.
Thought it was incredible. Huh?
I said no.
I thought it was incredibly upsetting when they banned Pot of Greed in Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, that was my go-to card, even though that's not how Karibo works. I was thoroughly upset and mad that they banned the double-decker taco from Taco Bell. Yeah, I know I said I don't eat that, but I'm also a liar. And on top of that, I'm sorry that they banned Jabot jeans and white T-shirts and all those patterns from people's school. That's a damn shame.
I'm glad we're talking. We get to address the important topics here on the command center.
I couldn't hold my peace.
That's what we do. But in all seriousness, like, yeah, a bunch of negativity out there. We didn't want to like just jump in on that, and so we'll probably talk once they release those brackets and everything like that. 100%. we'll probably have some thoughts and get to dive into that when there's some like substance and everything. But with everything else going on, yeah, just stop being assholes to each other. And look, it's just Joe, when we see you, you're gonna beat our ass anyway. It doesn't matter what card you use. It's just part of it's part of what happens. We embrace it, and we'll keep going.
Yeah, save your wrath for people who really deserve it, like people who drive slow in the fast lane. Save your wrath for people who need it. You go a 40 and a 75. I will roll you. I don't care how many puppies you got in that back seats. Hot dogs, people. Hot dogs.
Or like elevator crop dusters.
Wait, that's a personal one for me.
And most of all, carnies. All right, so let's move forward.
So yes, today's topic. So we have a few different categories because you kind of touched on it. We want to unmask some things. We want to talk about spookiness, but from some different angles. So we have a few different categories of spooky because there's everything. You got like the chihuahuas of the world, real tiny, don't look really assuming, but underneath they think they're the biggest killers in the world, and they're probably gonna tear your leg off if you walk past. Then you got like the big scary like pit bulls and stuff where, despite popular myth, they're typically like giant children. Most pit bulls are very sweet and lovable, and they look scary. They look like they rip your head off. They don't really do much. And then you have cats. Exactly. They have fangs, look scary, and they will also murder you. So we have those three categories of cards. And we want to talk about commanders from this year because there's been like 7,000 printed this year. So we have plenty to pick from that fit into each one of these categories that look scary and aren't, look scary and are, or look unassuming and will mess you up. So we all have some cards picked out. Yeah, Ken?
Real talk. All I gotta say, if you do own a cat, I just try this one time. Set your camera up from across where you're sleeping, and watch what your cat does to you at night when you sleep. They literally watch you breathe, just so that they can jump in and figure out when you go, so they can eat you. I kid you not. I had a roommate who had a cat, and I one time slept in the living room, and I woke up and I looked at him, and he was literally sitting on my chest, rubbing his hands like with a thing of Tabasco sauce around his tail. I was like, yo, that's not how we going, Playboy.
I mean, like, I don't know. When I set up a camera and I see Barkevius holding a switchblade to my neck at night, I think it's a showing of love, and it shows how much he cares for me, that he would go out of his way to threaten me like that. So I think it's a nice thing, but we'll move on from that.
To give you a shave.
Yeah. So this first category. So we're going to talk about the first category and then get into our picks for the cards. So this first one is cards that look scary and are. So the people who play these cards are, what you're doing when you play them. Because everybody sits down at a table, and I think this is one of the most famous things is like, oh, I didn't know my deck did that. I didn't know I was going to lock everybody out. I didn't know I was going to kick you in the shin and then spit in your face and then kick your chair over and then like teabag you. That was an accident. I didn't see it coming. So this is one where you cannot claim that. It looks like it is. It does what it does, and everybody's aware of this situation. So these, I think, are the spookiest of the spooky because it's just everybody knows about it. And if you see someone sit down with this, they know what they're doing. You don't even want to know what else is in that deck because they don't have the self-restraint to hide what's going on in the command zone. You know for damn sure they are not hiding anything in that deck, and it's about to be a crazy game. So, we'll throw it over to you first and let Ken take the first pick to talk about his spooky one that everybody already knows is spooky.
So the spooky one I'm choosing that's already spooky is Kona Rescue Bestie, whatever you want to say. And on the surface, this looks like a humble critter. It looks like, Master Splinter picking up the turtles, and he's just about to go off and train him with takeout menus. Go F yourself, Michael Bay. But anyway, so you see this card, you're like, okay, at the beginning of your second main phase, if this is tap, you put a permanent in card. I have seen whole heathens out here. Whole heathens. I'm talking about people that break wind in nurseries and shut the door. I'm talking about whole scally wags, okay? And then you want me to tell you what I seen? First of all, somebody ramped into this. Turn 2 it came out. And then on top of that, they put in an omniscience. I was like, violence. Absolute violence. That's chick on violet, black t-shirt, Billie Eilish. I don't care about none of that. But yeah, this card is a whole problem. When I see it on the battlefield, I just attack the player physically.
You just do the launch over the table.
So you're saying that this is a card that's just scary on his face that we definitely need to watch out for when everybody plays it. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, I've seen it in work like 5 times. Every time it's either Eldrazi, it's a Coma, it's a Omniscient. It's literally get this out, big cards in your hand. I'm about to end the game. And you can get this out on turn 2. And then if you have tap effects like Song of Freylees or the mana right or the rights card that you can tap creatures for mana, or any card that allows you to tap creatures for extra benefits on your second turn, booyah, game over. This is something Derik would play.
Wow. Probably.
I was honestly gonna say I guess picture this in a deck near Ken.
No.
This would 100% go into Teamer Dragon Man. The Teamer Dragon
Intet the Dreamer.
Yes, Intet the Killer of Dreams and Hopes. That one. Yes, this 100% would go into your Intet deck.
I was thinking about it. I actually tried to put it in there, but Intet fought it, and it actually kicked it out the deck. It was like, no suit for you. Like, it literally flagged it across the room.
I actually agree with that pick. That is definitely a scary no. That's a ghost. That's a monster. We don't mess with that. So mystery machine gang. Let's move on to the next monster. And my pick, I'm gonna have to pick Ulok the Defiler. This came out during the Modern Horizons 3 set, and every line of text on his card is offensive. So I mean, it's like going to the Flash movie front row, like offensive. Like, what are we doing here? Sitting through the whole thing, enjoying it, offensive. Ulok the Defiler. Okay, for 10 mana, when you cast a spell, target opponent exile half their library rounded up. Ward, you have to sacrifice 2 permanents. Ulok the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards exiled. Cards in exile. And then the last line of text, Ulok has Annihilator X, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on it. Literally every line is a threat.
It's a bar.
That's come on. I would leave the table if I see this come down. I would just scoop. I wouldn't even scoop. What's faster than scoop? I would just just leave.
Just run. Don't even take your cards. Just take off sprinting. Just be like, peace. I'm out. I'm going away. I can play Yu-Gi-Oh!
I wouldn't. I wouldn't call a judge. I wouldn't call a judge. I call the police.
It's called Ninja Vanish. That's when you just sacrifice your cards to the gods, throw them up, and use them to escape their vision.
Exactly. Confetti. Pocket sand. All right, what you got, Derik?
I have an ambulance driving by. That's what I have. What I will say is I think they heard the mention of Ulok and somebody needed help. They were just like, no, we cannot stand for this. We need to help someone. Ulok is one of those. I feel like, and I mean this in the most like friendly way possible, you have to be a psychopath to play Ulok in your command zone. Like, I'm just being real. Like, this is the type of card, if you're gonna advertise that you're gonna go to colorless just so you can mess up somebody's day this bad, either like first I'm gonna ask who hurt you, and then I'm just gonna run, because that is the equivalent of like I don't even have a good metaphor for that. That's like the equivalent of like walking outside in like boots with no socks. Like, you just give no F's. Like, I'm terrified of whatever you're going through. So yeah, all right. So my pick mine is, I will say, slightly less initially obvious, but still I think my first reaction when I saw this was like, please don't let Ken get his hands on this. It is Maha. It's Feathers Knight. It's a very confusing name. Maha. It's Feathers Knight. It's 3 black and a black for a 6/5 elemental bird, one of the Bloomburrow creatures, and it has flying, trample, ward, discard a card. But where it gets disgusting is creatures your opponents control have base toughness 1. And effectively what this does is you give all your opponent's creatures toughness 1, every pestilence effect, every -1/-1 effect, everything like that just turns into a one-sided board wipe. And this commander just screams with like blaring alarm bells, I'm going to board wipe you all over and over and over again. And what makes it worse is typically there's been board wipe commanders where it just wipes the whole board, so everyone's miserable. This one is just going to keep wiping the opponent's board. So the wonderful person, and by that I mean a-hole, that is playing this card, gets to have all the fun, gets to keep all their creatures, and everybody else there is going to have their board wiped over and over and over again. And similar to Ulamog, I feel like in certain decks, this is a cool synergy. If you're putting this at the face of your deck, I know you do not care what anyone thinks. You are there to ruin everyone's day and make sure that not another creature lasts on the board for more than like a turn. There are so many effects that either do 1 damage to everything, give -1/-1 to everything. Yeah, this thing just screams a 7-hour long game, and there's nothing scarier than that.
You know the rudest part. You know the rudest part of this card?
What?
Trample.
Like, wait, why does it have Flample? You're 100% right. Why is Flample on there? None of this is necessary. Like, I'm going to ruin your whole day. Oh, by the way, I'm also going to punch you for 6 in the air with Trample. Deal with it. Like, what?
That is so unnecessary. Most people don't even have flyers.
And I also love the ward discard a card. And I will say, I'm a fan of creative wards. I'm happy it's ward discard a card, not ward 7 or some crap like that. But, like, it's like not only can you not have creatures, don't have any cards in your hand either. Get rid of those. I want you to have nothing. You will have nothing and you'll like it. And it's just, oh my gosh, like this is outside of it sounding like I think the Amanda show with I forgot what skit it was, but that thing, that's the only redeeming thing this card has.
That's a deep cut.
Hey, it's
not Amanda Bynes.
I'm old. I'm old now.
Amanda, please.
Oh my gosh, that was such a great show.
Get some of that iCarly action.
I don't remember. I don't think I've ever seen that show.
You never seen iCarly?
I missed out on that one. We got to move on from that. We can't expose me for not knowing pop culture things. All right, next. The next category.
What's the next category?
So the next category we want to talk about is going to be stuff that looks terrifying. So it's still that initial impression that we just had. But it's really not that bad. Upon further review, it's probably not as scary as it first seems. It might have some downsides, it might be risky, or it could just be a dud. We've seen plenty of those. This should be like the bootlegger stash award for a card that everyone like, oh my gosh, and it's like the most useful shit of all time. So like, that's this category essentially. So Ken, we'll let you start it off again.
So the best example I can think about this is the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, everybody thinks they're going to be a good team. They're going to be dangerous, but they're pretty much a D1 high school team at best.
You saw Kirko Chains out there leading the swag surf after he threw for 500 yards the other night.
Yeah. That's going to be amazing when he's at home sitting on the couch watching the playoffs. That's going to look real amazing when he said, "Mom, can you bring the nachos?" Like, yeah, that's going to be awesome. He's going to be able to reflect on that pass and see that he's still sitting there watching it with Doug from accounting.
My favorite, and this is a side tangent that is worth going in. Kirk Cousins became like Atlanta in his soul faster than any person I've ever seen. In that, like, he joined the Falcons this offseason. Immediately, the first question they ask him is like, you know what? That surf and swag song they play, it's pretty sweet. Within a week, he was doing interviews in a Waffle House parking lot. And it's just
that's Atlanta right there, baby.
It happened so fast. Okay, sorry.
And for people who don't understand the sports analogy, it's like Yamcha joining your team. When you first see Yamcha, you think Yamcha gonna be a beast, and then you like, oh man, we could have brought the cat. We could have brought anybody. But yeah, going on, my second pick, and this is the one where I thought, man, this is deadly. This is gonna be insane. And then I saw this is hot garbage. So it's called the Mind Skinner, and the Mind Skinner can't be blocked. That's beautiful. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent all that damage, and that opponent mills that many cards. It sounds threatening on the surface until you realize that it's one toughness. One. I would literally put a lightning bolt or a shock in my deck just to piss this person off. That's how petty I would be with this. I thought this was gonna be a whole monster out in these streets. I was like, hide your kids, hide your Wi-Fi. There's somebody tried to play it against me. I was like, let's see, destroy, murder, fatal push. Yeah, no, get that away.
You get grape shot with no storm count and take it out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're just naming removal spells. I mean, sure. I honestly had this card on my list for a whole problem. I feel like I can definitely take out a table with this card. Commander or not commander. I would probably put it in the 99 though, because go perfectly in the Finnex Lord of Deception deck. But yeah, milling from every angle, like this is crazy. Like you don't even have to take this card itself into consideration to do the attacking. Like, get it out, protect it, and then let everything else go and do their thing. Like I see this card going a distance.
Yeah, it sounds good, like Beyond Meat. Then you got to actually eat it. So no, I don't.
First of all, Beyond Meat never sounded appealing.
Hey, Slutty Vegan though, that shit's great. Shout out to Slutty Vegan.
No, wait. I got some bad news for you. You know that's actually worse for you than the actual meat, right?
Oh, 100%. There's so much sauce and shit on there that's so much worse. But still, if as far as non-meat burgers go, Slutty Vegan is like the greatest. And that is a restaurant, by the way, for anyone not from a place that has one.
So the mind scanner is the Slutty Vegan of Magic cards. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know what that means, but it's provocative.
It's the varsity. It's the varsity. Because when you from out of town, everybody think it sounds good until you actually eat there, and you wonder why your butt won't stop mutting.
All right, Derik,
True story.
Wait, Seth, I think you're up.
Oh, I'm next. I'm next. Yeah. So this one was a little bit tough for me because I did see a few new commanders out there that I felt like were a problem, and they actually were a problem. I honestly have not seen a lot of the newer of this year's commanders out there in a while just yet. I would say one of the ones that definitely fit this mode. It might be doing damage in other formats, but in Commander, I saw it do a little bit, but I don't think that player won. But the infamous Cruel Claw from the Bloomburrow set, 1 black and a red, Weasel Mercenary, Menace, 3/3. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost. So rummaging something off the top real quick, and it has to be a non-land card, and you get to cast it by discarding something. So that's pretty tough. That's pretty deep. But I think when you realize that this card has to deal combat damage, it's only during combat that this is going to take place. So it definitely slows it down a lot. So I was definitely worried about this one, but it moves at a slower pace than what it could be doing.
I think that's a really good just indicator too. There's a lot of really busted sounding effects, but if it has the words either has to like attack, or especially if it says deals combat damage, the amount of like tiers that takes an effect down from like an ETB or a static is insane. So like even if it's the most busted thing ever, it's just combat damage in so many games. If it's not a 2-drop or a 3-drop, it's just so hard to get in. Okay. So this might be the first controversy of our list maybe, but this is the one I think looks scary, but I don't think it's about that. And it's Emrakul, the World Anew. So this is the new 12 mana Emrakul. It's a legendary creature. When you cast the spell, you gain control of all creatures target player controls. Flying, protection from spells and from permanents that were cast this turn. And then when Emrakul, the World Anew, leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all creatures you control. And it has a madness cost of 6 colorless mana. So when this first got released, I know my reaction was that it seemed like good. It seems scary. You can pay a madness cost of 6 mana. You taking all of everyone's creatures. I think the protection comes off as more confusing, which makes it seem even scarier because it's like, okay, protection from spells and from permanents that were cast this turn. What does that mean? Like, that's a great question to ask. What does that mean? But so, and it's an Eldrazi, so it's Emrakul. It has all these things going for it to make it look terrifying. When you like really dig into this thing, it's got really no evasion in the sense of it's got flying, but only pro spells and from permanents that were cast this turn. So if there's a bunch of flyers, you could have 100 like bats on the battlefield, a bunch of birds. You can just block it for days. It doesn't have.
Well, it steals the birds though.
From target player though. That's the thing. It's only stealing it from one player. It's not giving it haste either. So when you cast it and steal all that player's creatures, you can't even swing unless you have a haste enabler. So you're giving them a turn. Everyone else in the battlefield keeps their blockers. And then the protection also means, especially in Commander now, no protection from any sort of the like channel lands. So you can just Otawaru this thing. You can, do whatever if you have that means of doing it. but it's also permanents that were cast this turn. So any like onboard sacrifice to bounce effects or onboard, there's so many different ways to interact with creatures now that don't involve just casting a spell or an ETB, that the risk you have to take to play this and set up this whole board, and if one person has an Otawara on the battlefield, or if one person has some sort of onboard way to bounce it or remove it, you lose everything, because you're not just sacrificing the creatures you stole, you're sacrificing your own too. So the fact that you're basically just putting a like live grenade on your own battlefield and being like, oh, we'll see what happens for 12 mana and no evasion and no annihilator. It's just this card has so much text, and it's an Eldrazi that I think maybe it does great things in other formats, but for Commander, it's just like I could never see myself wanting to cast this, because for that much mana to have that much risk, it's just like I'm good on that. So I think that's just like a huge discrepancy from people's reaction and like what the reality of the card is.
Yeah, especially since this is a big beater that's coming down and stealing all the creatures from one specific player. Basically already making you the threat, now making you the threat on top of the threat. Now everybody's gunning for you, and all they have to do is remove Emrakul. So you're making yourself a target and also an easier target. So yeah, Emrakul's coming with a bit number of downsides, more down than top, I would say.
Yeah. One day I would just want them to print an Eldrazi that says when you cast, target a player and go pick out their own coffin. Like that's all I wanted to say.
It's effectively the one that Sed just talked about.
That was Ulamog.
Ulamog.
That was Ulamog.
They don't have to hop in it yet. Yeah, they don't have to hop in it yet.
Ulamog says, "Get your affairs in order."
Tell your mama Christmas was just canceled.
No, one thing, I guess my closing thought for it, I think one thing that newer players will miss, and I know it took me a minute, is when you gain control of a creature, it regains that summoning sickness. That's something that I think is like not immediately obvious, is that's why all those threaten effects in red always say it gains haste. So especially a newer player, if you open this in a pack, you're playing, you're like, I get all their creatures, they're already in the battlefield, this is crazy. No, you got to wait a whole turn. Like you said, if you're becoming that big of a threat and you just have to be like, okay, now I have to wait, and oh, by the way, 2 people still have all other things to try to kill me with. Yeah, Commander games, the way they move now, you're probably dead before you get back to your next turn. So that is it's big and spooky. I guess that's good. It's big and spooky, but it's not that bad. That's I guess that's kind of what the Eldrazi turned into in the story. They kind of just disappeared. So big, spooky, and kind of underwhelming. So for this last category, now these are the most interesting ones to me. These are ones that on initial viewing, you're like, it's just another commander. It's not that interesting. It's not that strong. It's whatever. And then you see it and you realize what it does. And you're like, oh no, this is a problem. And I think these are some of the most like fun ones to discover, because I think we've all done that, where we found out about a new commander, like, this is kind of cool. We build it, and then it just like pub stomps. It does way too much, and you kind of like catches you off guard, and you're like, oh shit, I did not realize this what this did. And that's this category. So I'm excited. This was the one I think we're gonna get some weird ones for. So Ken, I'm curious, what is your pick for this category?
Okay, when I first saw this card, I was like, okay, it is what it is. Then I actually sat down and thought about it, and I was like, this is a whole problem. Like, it's so much a problem. Like, Ryan created this card. Ryan, I'm going to have to come see you, Ryan, because you got some explaining to do. And we need to check your basement because you got some stuff hiding in there. So it's called Obca, Splitter of Seconds. Okay? Obca says when Obca does combat damage to a player, you get that many upkeeps after this phase. So at first, I was like, ooh, who cares about an upkeep? Everything cares about an upkeep. There are so many upkeep triggers that if you get 20 of them, you can actually kill somebody with a lot of assortments. It is disgusting. When I saw this, I was like, this is a whole problem. I want to put something on the table right now, okay? Y'all remember the courts that got printed?
Yeah, you love those. I feel like I've seen you play more of those than anybody.
Court of Bounty, Court of Ire, all of those. Can you imagine if you got 10 upkeeps with any one of those? And you can just put stuff on the field, and you can just hit people for 7.
I try it all the time. You guys won't let me.
Yeah, because we're not completely insane. I mean, yeah, we huff paint on the weekends, but we know when to get off the road.
I think we saw it happen once, Ken. I think we saw Sed do it once, and there was like a card that I forgot what it was. It was like 2 like innocuous cards and like 6 upkeeps. I forgot. It was just insane value. We're like, yeah, we can never let Obca connect again. That is terrifying.
No. It happened.
But you're right. I think it is kind of
one
like...
time one time, and you guys will never let Obca resolve ever again. It's crazy.
Never.
I took
It
the deck apart.
resolves. We're just gonna block everything because we're like we don't even know what's coming next.
I'm gonna throw a Uno card at her.
All right, Sam, what's your pick for your kind of under the radar spooker?
All right, so I had a few options for this one, but I do have one in mind. I'm just gonna call it as an honorable mention because I'm curious in building it, but I haven't seen how it works out yet. I found out that there's actually a Grixis commander ish in Bloomborough. Not really, but let me explain. Wick the World Mind, 3 in black, Rat Warlock. Whenever a rat you control enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 black snail token. If you don't control a snail, otherwise you put a 1/1 counter on a snail you control. Pay Grixis, sack a snail. Wick will deal damage equal to the power of that creature to each opponent, and then you draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. I'm only bringing this card up because I play Jank, and this is very unassuming. Nobody expects me to have a bunch of snails and will outpace them as snails, but a lot of people don't realize that you can change creature types, especially in these colors, especially black and blue. So I see that coming to a deck near me, and I'm just putting out warnings that this is an unassuming commander that's probably going to deal a lot of damage as fast as I can. But I do want to talk about my real commander real quick that I'm going to do for this category. And I've played this deck plenty of times, built it numerous ways, and that's going to be Corum the Undertaker for 1 in Jun. Human Warrior. Whenever Corum gets +X +O, where X is the greatest power among creature cards in all graveyards. Whenever he attacks, each player mills a card. During each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a spell from among cards in graveyards that were put there from libraries this turn. Okay, I know it has 3 lines of text, and that kind of makes it not unassuming, but people zone out. They don't read all the text. And myself included. And so I played this deck, like they said, the first few times, and I pushed it in 3 different ways. Made it a super mill deck, made it a Jundam out kind of just attack deck with as much power as I can on the board, and also just casting spells and stealing things from other people's graveyards and decks. So it's so many ways you can take this deck. And if you can find the right balance, you could do a little bit of all of them in the same deck. But I would say focus on at least one of the strategies, 1 or 2 of the strategies, and you'll have a fun time with this commander. And a lot of people, once it starts hitting, people will start checking for it.
So Corum has kind of caught me off guard because I've seen you play it a couple times, and it does work. And especially I feel like its power is always so sneaky in that you never know what's going to end up in a graveyard at what time. So it's way harder to calculate. There's so many effects that are like, you get power equal to total creatures in graveyards and things like that. And it's more of a gradual thing. But yeah, Corum's always on some random stuff.
That's the secret tech. Find some creature cards that have the stars in them that care about, let's say, this creature's power is equal to the number of lands you control, or this creature's power is equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Yeah. I do want to give a quick shout out to Wick, because you mentioned Wick. Easter egg for y'all. If you go on the YouTubes and check out the Game Nights Live from Gen Con, when Wick, they do like the intros in the beginning. When who was it, Jimmy that was playing Wick? He comes out and like does the intro. You may or may not see Kennethy and I dancing behind Jimmy dressed as a rats. So fun Easter egg if you want to check that out.
That's not me. That's my cousin Earl.
But yes, Wick's awesome. Wick does seem very cool. I just love the concept of like picking a creature type like rats that has a bunch of same type of commanders where you just play all the rats, and adding a weird side thing of like, oh, by the way, there's a giant snail and you can murder everyone with it. So that's awesome. I do agree with that. But no, Corum is one that it's like on multiple axes. You don't see it coming because you don't know what cards you're going to steal from other people. So it's hard to like analyze the card at the start. And also you never expect it to be a 13/13 out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, now I have no way to block it. This is not good.
What you got next?
All right. So the next one I have is a deck I put together, played exactly once. It pooped on the table and I decided I can never play it again. It is Geral the Fleshlight. Geral is two.
That doesn't sound right.
Geral the Fleshlight. Geral the Fleshlight is 2 and a blue for a 2/3. This is back from the Cowboy set, Thunder Junction. It's It's the new Geralt. It has, whenever you cast a spell during your turn other than your first spell, so spells past the first one on your turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue token. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So effectively on your turn, the more spells you cast, the more zombies you get, and every time a zombie enters, it has some weird like pseudo Cathar's Crusade type deal. When I first saw this, I play Talrand. I play a lot of like the blue token commanders. And honestly, like they're good, but they're very dependent on the spells you play in the sense of just creating the tokens by themselves typically isn't enough to like overrun a table. You need a lot of like synergies within it. But this one was cool. I love Innistrad, obviously, so Geralt's cool. I love zombies. I was like, this is going to be fun. Let me give it a try. Said, I think you were in this game. I think it was against like you, Owen, and Colby might have been in there as well. I ended up with like 30 zombies, all like 15 power by like turn 6. It was just a mess. It was impossible to track board state-wise. It was just dice everywhere, tokens everywhere. Ran out of tokens, had to grab random cards to put on there. And I just underestimated how fast that, by the time you get to like turn 6, and if you have a bunch of 1 and 2 drops, and those like, cast a spell on tap type effects, you basically end up with lethal on board right away. And the fact that it's on so many different creatures, and you're getting so many of these big creatures, it's so hard to do. It's basically board wipe or you die. Oh, and by the way, I'm in mono blue. I probably have a counter spell for it. So this is one that just like, if I had never played this and I sat down from a table, I wouldn't even look twice. But it gets scary fast. And especially like, I didn't even have a most efficient build done. It was just cards I kind of had laying around. I can't imagine if you go all in on 1 mana cantrips, 2 mana cantrips, this deck has to just take off. It's terrifying. All right, so that is the last category for those. We did want to talk about one more thing, category wise. We were going to just talk about a general, like we just talked about commanders. It's crazy that we're already getting towards the end of the year. But for spooky season, what did you think is like the random spooky card from this year so far that stands out to you is when you see it cast, it's a problem. And this is a non-commander version. So anything in the 99 that sticks out. Ken, I'll throw it to you first.
So when I saw this card, I already knew the deck I was going to put it in. And when the second I put it in the deck, I was like, there's going to be villagers and pitchforks at my table ready to dispatch me because this is a whole problem. It's called the Head Shredder. It's an artifact vehicle. Whenever Head Shredder attacks, you may mill 2 cards. That's not bad. Whenever 1 or more lands cards are put into the graveyard from your library, put them on the battlefield tapped. This is going into Modrotha, and this is also going into the Windgrace. Yes.
This is going in Quorum because I mill myself too.
This is going to hell. That's where it's going. I hate this. It's funny because I've had multiple videos in the past where I talk about how much I love this card, and I do. But the second I thought about playing against it, I was like, oh no. What have I done? What did I say? Oh gosh, there's so many lands. Bring back mass land destruction. And if the table doesn't have a removal spell for it, by the time it gets back to your next turn, you have all that mana to use. You're basically just wrap. Yeah. Because if you have 1 mass mill effect, you end up with so many resources that no other deck at the table can keep up. And there's no mass land destruction, so it's basically game over. So yeah, that's terrifying. All right, Sed, what is your pick?
All right, so many. I'm definitely curious to see what some of these cards coming out of Dustmourn are going to do, especially the scary ones that are non-legends. But we talked about those in some of our preview videos of cards we thought were just like ridiculously powerful that were not legends. But I'm gonna switch mine over to a little kitty cat called Ocelot Pride. It's an ocelot. 1 drop in white. That's a 1/1 cat. First strike lifelink. Has Ascend. You get the city's blessings. We have 10 or more permanents. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Then if you have the city's blessing, for each token that you control that entered the battlefield this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. A cat that's just creating tokens out of nowhere. Or any kind of token you create, whether it's a treasure token, whether it's a 4/4 angel, using something like Shilgengar, where you're actually creating blood tokens. It clue tokens, anything that you're making, this will say, here, have another, have some more. This is crazy for 1.
It's absurd. I run it in my Hobbits deck.
It's
It's
going in-
absurd. It's insane.
It's going into Carl. It's going into Carl.
Why is it going into Carl?
Because I want to.
How do you know to make tokens in there? It's just for effect. It's just
You know,
It's not the point. It's not the same. It's not the win. It's like I want that little kid from The Simpsons to pop up and be like, "Stop it! He's already dead." Yeah.
stop it. That card doesn't even synergize.
It's not the point here. It's the message. All right, the message. It's like putting a world tree in a monocolored deck. It's the message.
you can't put it in the monocolored deck.
You shut up. You can't tell me what I can and can't do. I'm a grown ass man. You sit down and shut up.
All right, is that all?
No,
Is
then
that
you
all
go.
we have for the Ocelot?
Tell me what the hell I can and
Yeah.
can't do.
Yeah, that's all we got for the Ocelot. We've been making treasure tokens. Like we talked about our tokens we're making all these days. So treasure tokens, clue tokens, they've been all the craze. Token for days, basically.
Speaking of Ocelot, shout out to Babu. If anybody watched Star Trek,
He is an ocelot.
Babu
Babu is an ocelot.
is an Ocelot. So shout out Babu. All right, so my pick for this
Oh.
one, it was actually close. I had my initial pick was going to be Wide of the Reliquary because it's every game I've seen that card in, it is busted. But the one that really scares me when it's cast is going to be Invert Polarity. Invert Polarity is blue, red. For an instant, it says, choose target spell, then flip a coin. If you win the flip, you gain control of that spell, and you may choose new targets for it. If you lose the flip, you counter it. So, you at the very least, it's a counter spell. At the very worst, and if you happen to get lucky, you can steal whatever it is. And this is one that is just terrifying to me because with counter spells, it's almost like I don't care if my stuff gets countered. And in the past, like spells like Desertion were 5 mana. Like you had these like very expensive over the top spells if you were gonna 3 mana to effectively counter or steal something. There's gonna be so many times that yes, the fact that being unlucky means just a 3 mana counter spell is crazy, and it's gonna break games. Like break games, I guess is strong, but this is gonna win games. It's gonna take some luck. It's not like that busted of. It's just there's going to be so many times where I'm at a table and I think I have a chance to win. Someone casts this and it swings everything in their favor. So yeah, this was one just like I had to read it a few times because I know my first instinct when I read it was if you lose the flip, nothing happens. I was like, oh, that's whatever. And then I read it and then I read it again and I read it again. I was like, oh no. There's only upside. It's like, yes, here is your upside. Take more upside, please.
Can you imagine if you cast that spell you used to love to cast so much?
Shout out Villainous Well. It's been a very long time since I've cast that. I need to put together my old Villainous Well thing. Yeah, you couldn't win a game in 2024, but I think just for nostalgia, I need to bring that thing back. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like you're just gonna travel around with like in your like sleeve pockets with Invert Polarity no matter what deck you're playing. And the second I say the word start the Villainous, you just slap this on the table, slap the coin on the side you already want it to go on, and just stick a middle finger in my face. I feel like that's the
Exactly. 1,000%. 1,000%. I might even kick you in the testicles. You have been kicked in the testicles.
Metaphor.
No. Literally. Like I'm going to sack tap your acorns into your throat.
All right, so I guess how we want to kind of close this out. You take it out.
So I do want to take us through the year of 2024. I know we did talk about the scariest commanders that we wanted to unmask and all that jazz. Like I said, we're not that far removed from Dustmore, so there were a lot of scary commanders that came out. So we're gonna do some, don't have much stats on these yet. So we're just gonna do a quick shout out to cards like the Lord of Pain, which is just throwing damage every time somebody is casting a spell their first time each turn. We're gonna do a quick shout out to Valgavoth. Both versions, but especially I personally think the Rakdos version for 2 in a red and a black. Whenever an opponent loses life for the first time each turn during their turn, you put a 1/1 counter on Valgavoth and you get to draw a card. So shout out to Valgavoth. Again, I personally think that the Mind Skinner is a problem, but Kenneth thinks otherwise, and that's totally fine. We'll see who wins the meal ticket.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. When I grape shot it.
Real quick, last couple of shout outs coming from Dustmore. We got Arabella Abandoned Doll. for a red and a white. This is a artifact creature that whenever it attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So definitely want to see how Arabella does in the coming months out there. See what it does. Also, people have pretty much probably already broken Marvin Murderous Mimic, the other legendary artifact. Colorless, but it has all the activated abilities of creatures that you control that don't have the same name as this creature. So there's probably some infinite combos that a lot of people have already figured out, and maybe a lot of people just don't want to play that way. So definitely shout out to those cards coming from Duskmourn, and those I would say that you guys would agree that some of those are definitely scary, right?
Yeah, I mean Duskmourn, we've done more Duskmourn videos than literally every other set combined this year. So I think that speaks on our thoughts to it. But yeah, they got the spooky vibe and the spooky like play patterns down. Duskmourn it's a great kind of like, I know there's still foundations or whatever the standard thing set is, but like as far as like a main set to kind of end the year, I feel like Duskmourn's a great way to go out because it is spooky and wonderful.
I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but Outlaw Star was just terrible. I'm sorry, no, that's a lie. The Outlaw set was just terrible to me. I mean, I was like, it is what it is, because I'm like, I mean, Cowboys are not scary, especially in 2024. We got freaking laser beams. We have sharks with freaking laser beams. Do you think I'm gonna get upset with a guy with a 6-shooter who probably uses his hand to wipe his own butt? No.
Do you not use your
Ricketts
hands?
is real. Huh? I use 3 shells. Get that reference. I use 3 shells. Get that reference.
Like seashells?
You don't get the reference.
Take it, Seth.
All right, Sylvester Stallone. So basically, I think there might be one more little section that I did kind of tease to the guys before we started this. I did want to talk about, take a look at the top 100 cards that are kind of based through EDH Rec. You know how they compile their commander list and data based on what people are building and where they're pulling their data from. Basically taking a look at the top decks and the number and frequency that those decks have been built for the year. So I did definitely want to take a look at 2024 and take a look at that top 100 to see if any of those 2024 cards made it on there. And see if we would agree if these guys are scary or not. We've actually mentioned a couple of these. We haven't mentioned the number 1 card yet, but I will want to walk you through the top 3 to 1. So let me know when you guys are ready for that ride.
Let's do it. Fake drum roll.
All right. So in a shocking turn of events, somehow Kennedy actually mentioned one of these cards on his list. I didn't see it coming, but coming at the number 3 rank, with the rank of number 95. So this is probably the 95th most deck built, but it's going to be Obca, Splitter of Seconds. So 1 in Grixis, as Ken mentioned. This is the multiple upkeeps, and nasty things can definitely happen, especially if you are the Monarch and you have those court cards. But definitely a lot of other cards out there that has upkeep triggers that can hurt players too. So definitely see Obca being earning this top spot. Out of all the legends printed this year, I didn't realize she would make it into the top 100. How about you guys?
Yes, that's why I said what I said.
I'm very surprised on that one. I think when I think of cards making it into the top 100, it feels like they're cards that are, I guess she's strong, but just raw power level, typically like more of the pub stompy type of when I think of top 100 cards. And I feel like she lets you do weird stuff. So I would say, like, I'm not surprised she's popular, but I am surprised she's that popular.
Yeah, same. All right, number 2 will shock you. It's probably number 1 on your list, Derik, but the number 2 most built popular deck and of a creature that I would consider being one of the strongest legends from this year and scariest is actually going to be Volja, Jaws of the Conclave.
What number overall?
Rank number 66. So this has 10,709 decks to his name, just based off of EDH Rec stats. And this is for the people out there. Volja is the 2 in Naya. Has Vigilance, Trample, Ward 3, which is a mistake. I think it's been admitted by people. But whenever it attacks, You put X11 counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of L's you control, and you draw a card for each wolf you control. I think this is our probably number one big bad wolf or big bad monster of the year. Definitely don't want to see this on the table across from me unless I'm specifically requesting to play against Volja. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, this is one of those that, like, we've mentioned it for a few cards, but this is one, if it's at a table, I might just excuse myself from it if I don't have that type of deck on me, just because it's like, I don't know, there's certain decks, like, if you already know what's going to happen before you start, what's the point of playing a game? And it's one of those commanders where it's like, if I don't have something that is like fast interaction, fast board presence, we 100% know it's, and if you want evidence of this, check out the Cookout episode of Tabletop Jocks where we play against a Voja deck, and you can see us scream and fight for our lives, and just evidence if you needed it of how scary this thing is.
Yeah. All right. So our number one, this might shock you, and it probably might not shock you. You just might have forgot about it. But let me just double check. Yeah, this is 2024. So coming in at rank number 59 with 11,145 decks is the Wise Mothman.
Wow.
Personally, I would not place this as scarier than Volja, but I guess it's probably coming in more popular than Volja, but still scary nonetheless. But to know that there are approximately about 1,000 more decks out there of the Wise Mothman doesn't make me sleep better at night. But for the listeners, this is one in Sultai, that's black, green, and blue. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, each player gets a rad counter. Whenever one or more non-land cards are milled, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to X target creatures, where X is the number of non-land cards milled this way. So Derik and Ken, I know that we have a mutual friend who plays the Wise Mothman, and I've seen it get out of control. How do you guys feel about this also being a potential boogeyman for the year?
I am encouraged that this is more popular than Voja, because I play against the Wise Mothman, and I think it's a fun dynamic. It is a powerful card, but it's still a fun card to play against, in that plenty of points to interact. Graveyard decks are always somewhat vulnerable, and like you can just kill the Mothman. Like there's a lot of points of interaction, a lot of ways to get in a game like that. And it's strong, but it's fun. So I am encouraged to see that ahead of Voja, because Voja is the opposite, where it's just like bah, and then just sadness. Ken, I'm curious how you feel.
Actually, I never thought this was that big of a deal. So I'm ready to rock out with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, these are just our 2024 legends. Just curious to see if they made it into the top 100. Took a look at that top 100, and a lot of the 2023 legends made it into there. So that's definitely something to take a look at, maybe at a later date. And some of those cards could be considered rude or scary as well, especially coming out of the Lord of the Rings set. So, and also probably even the Doctor Who set. We got a lot of sets from last year that. Wait, were those in the same year? Am I mixing up some things here?
Close enough. They're within the last decade, so I'll give it to you. But I would say that is a future topic.
At least within the last...
Yeah.
Yeah, at least within the last couple years.
Exactly. Yeah, it's close enough. But I will say that is a future topic that's interesting to see, kind of that connection from the popularity we see amongst decks built and the scariness of commanders, and if there's anything there. Because I've always associated, if a commander gets in the top 100 on EDH, my guess is it's terrifying. I feel like there's very few times that it's just like this is a fun, silly card, and a lot of people build it. Like, I just don't feel like that's how it works most times. So, future topic teaser alert. That sounds like something that'd be fun to talk about. But I think we're going to wrap it up.
Pretty much all that. Yeah. We pretty much wanted to wrap it up as far as just like we took you guys on a trip as far as unmasking those scary commanders. Some not so scary as others. Some that are definitely threats and need to be locked away in a cell, never to see the light of day again. But they persist. So if you see some of these cards that we talked about from the year, definitely pick them up from our affiliate TCG Player using our affiliate link in the description below. You can help yourself out, also help out a local LGS, and you help out the channel at the same time. Definitely want to make sure that you check out the other affiliates such as Heavy Play. Definitely great accessories to take when you're on the go, and when you see some of these scary commanders, when you got to pack it up and run, Heavy Play is there to make sure that you're not damaging any of your products, any of your cards, because I promise you they'll just be stuck to the play mat with you. You gotta check it out. It's crazy. And lastly, if you're gonna play scary or potentially be scared at the table, the least you can do is look fresh, right? So check out our other affiliate, Into the AM, because in space they can hear you scream, but what's the rest of it, Ken?
They can't see, but they can see your drip. And a shout out to everybody. We will be at MagicCon Vegas. Come up and say hi if you got time. Pull out a deck so we can play. And get your face kicked in. I mean, we don't show mercy. I mean, I don't care if you're 95 or 5. You gonna catch this work. And then I'm gonna take a picture of it and post it and tell your family about it.
I seen it.
Yeah.
Ken beats up old people. You heard it here first. It's just a
old, young, everybody catch it. Cockroaches, dormouses, we can get it. We can get it to everybody. But thank you guys for watching us. Like and subscribe. But until next time.